Okay, we're set on.
All set?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks, Joanne, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 17th, 2023 meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission. We will open with the roll call. Ms. Hofstetter.
Here.
Mr. Chiocchio is absent. Mr. Sylvain.
Here.
Mr. Haas. Kevin, you there?
Here.
And Chairman Finaldi is here. We do not need to seat any alternates at this time. Actually, we will postpone the acceptance of the minutes of April 19th, 2023. Those minutes have not yet been prepared. And as you all know, there will be no minutes of the May 3rd meeting as it was canceled. The next regular meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission will be June 7th, 2023. And before we move to continuation of public hearings, I'll just read the virtual Zoom meeting introduction. This meeting of the Danbury Planning Commission is being held on Zoom as a virtual meeting. Even though this meeting is a virtual meeting, members of the public and interested parties continue to have the opportunity to participate in the meeting in a couple of different ways. You can participate via Zoom and see the audio and the video, or you can call in by phone and participate via audio only. Please be aware that we may have to mute your microphone or telephone to avoid an echo or some other background noise. Instructions on how to participate in the meeting appear on the City of Danbury website, and all of the documents and materials that apply to the matters to be discussed during this meeting, including the agenda, are also available on the City of Danbury website. As always, if you have any questions regarding how to participate in the meeting, please contact the City of Danbury Planning and Zoning Department. As a reminder, the entire meeting will be posted on and can be seen on the City of Danbury website. We will follow the posted agenda as per standard practice. If prior to the meeting any questions or comments on agenda items were submitted via email to the Planning and Zoning Department, those comments will be read during the appropriate portion of the meeting. Finally, please remember that technology glitches do sometimes occur. Please be patient if that happens.
Mr.
With that,
Chairman,
we'll move to, yes, Perry.
just as a reminder, I've recused myself from item number 1 under the public hearings. So if someone could just let me know when to come back in, that would be great. Thank you.
We will do that. You on that, Jen or Joe? Okay, we got you, Perry. Thank you. With that, we will move right to item 1 under continuation of public hearing. Tower Investment Group LLP. Application for special exception site plan approval for apartment house, the Legacy on Main Bank trip. Generation in excess of 500 vehicle trips per day, section 3E2, and required parking in excess of 100 spaces, section 5F2B in the CCBD zone, 30 and 34 Main Street, I-15254 and I-15335, special exception number 792. Several documents, commission members, were submitted via on the agenda, link to the agenda, updated staff reports, the applicant's response to staff comments, updated map set, and a letter received in opposition. With that said, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application? Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. For the record, my name is Tom Beecher from the Collins Hannafin Law Firm, and I represent Tower Investment Group LLP. With me this evening are Ben Dodo, the project engineer, Abigail Adams, our landscape architect, Mike Kozlowski from Claris Design Build, Joe Balskis, our traffic engineer, and Dr. Donald Poland, who's our planning consultant. As the chairman just indicated, we submitted a lot of material since the last time we were here in April in response to various city reports and comments. So we're just going to jump right in and go through those. And we're going to start with Dr. Poland, who was not here with us last time in April. And then after Dr. Poland, we'll go to Joe Balskis and then to Ben. And last but not least, we'll go to Abigail. So, Don?
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate the introduction. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine. For the record, my name is Donald Poland. I'm with the firm of Goman York Property Advisors. We're based at 111 Founders Plaza, East Hartford, Connecticut, and I'm Managing Director of Planning and Strategy. I produced a planning report that was dated November 17th, 2022, and it focused on municipal fiscal and economic impact analysis related to this proposed development. It's a lengthy report. Hopefully you've had a chance to read it, and I will not go through it in great detail tonight. I just want to hit on some of the high points of it, and some of the aspects of it that I believe are important. In preparing the report, I did a review of your existing POCD, the Plan of Conservation Development 2013, and I didn't find development conflicting in any way with that, and that it generally was consistent with the goals and policies of the POCD. Recognizing you're in the process of updating your POCD, I also looked at the preliminary documents that are available at this time, and once again found it consistent with issues and ideas related to those documents. While this property is just outside the transit-oriented development study that you guys completed, I did look at it because I still believe it's accessible to transit. I believe it's less than a mile from the station, and also once again found no conflicts between it and the study, in consistency with the recommendations for redevelopment, higher density, and residential development. I think the most important thing here when we're talking about a redevelopment project, especially in this day and age, is about changes in uses. The fact is, we've all heard of the retail apocalypse. We've also heard of the now kind of office apocalypse in the post-COVID world. And the fact is, you know, retail or office are not going away. Bricks and mortar will remain, but they are changing. And there is a substantial contraction in the amount of occupancy in space, and we will see over time the loss of space due to its lack of economic vitality. And essentially that's what's here before you, is a repositioning of this property to better compete and better contribute to the economic environment, and a conversion of existing office space into multifamily residential, with the addition of new multifamily residential. There's a symbiotic relationship between housings in downtown or housings in commercial development, and the addition of more housing proximate to commercial or proximate to downtowns creates more consumer spending and therefore contributes to prosperity and vibrancy. Therefore, I believe 30 Main Street and the proposed redevelopment of it will be of a benefit to the downtown area and its immediate neighborhood. Sorry, I'm just scanning through my notes. The next portion of my report really talked a lot about demographics, and this is an area I want to hit on a bit because I think it's important, and it may be counterintuitive. Communities often struggle with the idea of growth. And there's also this fear that with growth is going to come more costs and so forth. As someone who spends a lot of time studying and analyzing demographics, the fact is what scares me is stagnation and decline. In Connecticut as a whole, from a population perspective, has been anemic over the past 30 years. From a jobs perspective, has been stagnant over the past 30 years. And the most recent census data comparing 2010 to 2020 really confirmed that on the population size. Connecticut only grew by 1%. That's an insignificant number in the context of demographic growth. Fairfield County fared better at 4%. Danbury's total population increased by 7%. And from my perspective, that is great. You guys are an older, urban core community, and you're experiencing great growth. Not many communities similar to you, or not many communities at all in Connecticut, can say that they are actually growing, and that's a good thing. In addition, statewide, the state lost 10% of its under 18 population. Fairfield County lost 6% of its under 18 population. That contraction in young persons is evidence of an aging population and a stagnating economy. Once again, Danbury bucked the trends, and you guys actually experienced growth of 7% in your under 18 population. I know from a municipal fiscal impact perspective, that often raises concerns about education costs and growing enrollments. But once again, adding total population and young persons is extremely positive from a demographic and also an economic perspective. The analysis then went into kind of that look at enrollments, and your enrollments have been increasing. But my analysis kind of finds and shows a couple of things. One is it's probably turnover in existing housing stock that is mostly driving your enrollments, less so than new housing development itself. Your existing housing stock actually only produces 0.372 enrollments, I believe, per unit. That's pretty typical, pretty normal for most communities in Connecticut. And this proposed development, when we analyze the unit mix, the studios, the 1 bedrooms and the 2 bedrooms, actually comes up with a very low number, 0.058 enrollments per unit. And that's really due to the fact that 92% of the units are studios and 1 bedrooms. Studios and 1 bedrooms don't generate school-age children. Therefore, I wouldn't see this development having much, contribution overall to your school system enrollments. What it does say, though, with mostly studio and 1 bedroom apartments and also some 2 bedroom apartments, is its target demographic is most likely going to be single persons. And I would say with the kind of center city urban location, more of a younger population overall. And therefore, I think it would contribute greatly from a demographic perspective to the vibrancy of downtown. There is a summary table on the fiscal impacts. Ultimately, it comes up net positive. That is typical of multifamily residential development. The fact is they're higher value. They pay far more taxes than the services they absorb. And then you add to that the mixed use component with the bank remaining and the commercial component. And ultimately, you have a development that will produce more income than the services it requires from the municipality. And last, we estimate probably about $1.3 million in one-time development fees covering all the permitting and water and sewer connections. So with that, I will stop and turn it back to Tom. I'm available for any questions if you have them.
Commission members, any questions for Mr. Poland at this time? Can't quite see everybody. Hang on. I guess we're okay. Attorney Beecher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to go to Mr. Balskis now.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, Joe Balskis for the record. Let me share my screen. I've got a little presentation I've put together for this. And just to kind of tack on to what Dr. Poland was saying about the development itself in terms of proximity to the train station and the younger renters, that was not factored into the trip generation for this. This trip generation that we presented last time, and it's in the report, is based upon a suburban type of trip generation. So it's conservative. If we use urban, it'd be a lot lower generation, but we stuck with the suburban to be conservative. So just to build upon that, we certainly can expect some of these tenants to be using the train station for transit connections, as well as we know that younger people also have less cars. So just to say that. All right. So a little presentation here. This is I cut away from what we did last time and want to focus on trip generation. That was clearly a concern last time, and I want to kind of talk about that. This next slide, can you see my slides okay?
Yes.
You can? I don't see the, there you go. Okay, now I can see it. Okay, got it. I can see it. So this is just an excerpt from the last presentation. This is just the DOT's traffic counts showing 14,000 vehicles per day on Main Street. This was from our report itself showing the existing counts that we did. And I want to just focus on the traffic generation that we talked about. There's clearly some confusion last time on traffic generation. And I showed this table last time with regards to what's in the report, tried to be clearer in terms of what was involved. So I want to step back for a minute and kind of talk about the traffic generation itself. And I want to start with one comment we heard last time was, well, they're all leaving at once. You have 208 units, they're all leaving at once. You have 200 cars.
Hey, Joe?
Yes,
Oh. I could just slow down just a little bit, nice and easy, okay?
sure, Jim. So let me talk a little slower. So last time we were talking about the traffic generation being the 200 units were explained. Why are the 200 cars being generated by the development? And I took issue with that statement that was made. And I want to document more facts. Obviously, I stated on the record that a 200 unit development is not going to generate all the traffic in 1 hour. And so I have some evidence of that now. So I want to show you the evidence of that. This is a roadway in East Lyme. You can see it here. It's called Park Place. It is a cul-de-sac, if you will. It has all residential, single family homes, as well as condominiums. And we put a traffic counter on this road for a different project, a traffic counter on this road, and wanted to show you what the traffic count revealed. So this is a snapshot of the traffic count, and I will show you exactly what this means. And basically, at the top row, you have the day of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You have a start time at midnight, and it goes by the hour, starting with 12 o'clock midnight all the way to 12 o'clock midnight the next day. And it has the volumes for each hour tally here. This is from an actual counter this is back May, this took a couple weeks ago, May 1st. And this shows you very clearly, and this is what you'll see in any residential development that you may do a traffic count on, that you don't see, and I don't have the exact numbers that are here. There's clearly probably 20 homes here. I forgot how many condos are here. But the point I'm making here is that, and unrefutable facts that I've said before, that the traffic being generated, and it's shown both northbound entering, southbound exiting, this one-way street, this one street. And you see here the numbers, obviously midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. There's obviously a peak hour in this area at 5 o'clock in the morning. Could be related to local defense, electric boat down the road. But you'll see the traffic volumes they go up, they come back down, go up across the whole day, and then at the end of the day, they decline. And it goes every single day is the same thing. The point being here is that this is residential. So the traffic is not all leaving all at the same time is the point I'm making here. And it depends on the day, but the bottom line here is that whatever units are there, whether it's 100 or 50, it's not all leaving at the same time. It starts at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, the traditional peak, and then it goes back down again. So I want to make it very clear that residential development, the 200 units are all not leaving at the exact same 1 hour time. So I want to also then talk about the generation a little more detail here. What do we have here for the project itself? The existing project is an office and a bank facility. And these are traffic generation numbers that we use based on the ITE trip generation manual that I showed last time, a little different format though here. And the office, if it's fully occupied, the office, 100 trips in the morning peak hour, another 100 trips in the afternoon peak hour. It's about 300 daily trips. And you come in, you work, and you work all day, then you leave. For the bank, we have 29 in the morning, 61 in the afternoon. And the bank is a little different. So we have 700 trips at the bank over the course of the day because the bank, people come in, use the bank at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, noon, 1 o'clock. So that's why you're seeing the bank itself having a lot of trips versus the office. So what does that mean in terms of total? So our total office and bank today, fully occupied, would be 130 roughly trips in the morning, 160 in the afternoon, and about almost 1,000 trips over the course of the entire day. This is based upon the morning peak hour of 8 to 9 o'clock, based on actual traffic counts, afternoon peak hour from 4 to 5. So our analysis that we've conducted is based upon the peak hours. We look at the peak hour analysis because that's what we analyze for our intersections as part of our study area. So this existing development, fully occupied office, will generate these numbers here. In the morning peak hour.
May I ask a question? Joe,
Yeah.
if I could jump in, going up to your bank numbers, Again, these are ITE figures, Joe?
Yes,
Okay, so the bank has 29 AM peak trips, 61 PM peak trips, but 691 all day. Now that's basically the customers coming in and out all day long. Is that correct?
Yeah. yes,
Okay, that's a complete day of customers coming in and out. So the AM and PM might reflect employees showing up or leaving, but the 691 is the entire total of all customer interaction in and out all day.
correct.
The ITE. Okay, I want to make sure I clarified that.
And the analogy also, the comparison also is for an office, you've got 100 and 100 in the morning, afternoon, and then you've got some traffic coming in and before the peak hour, after peak hour, you have some visitors. That's why it's about 300 over the course of the day. Because
Yeah,
there's
but
really not a lot in between the morning, after the peak hour.
Right, there's just a very significant difference between office and bank because office, obviously, the majority of the traffic is AM and PM, but bank, that's not the case. Bank
Exactly.
is spread out during the course of the day. Okay, my apologies. Go ahead. Thank you for the clarification.
That's fine. So that's existing. And proposed, the residential, you'll see some differences here. Residential, you'll see that we are showing, based on the numbers that we provided previously. All right, one more highlight here. So we said, there's the 80 we talked about. There's the 80, there's the 81. And that's where the confusion was. Well, you have 200 units. Is that possible? Well, you use the bank analogy that you have traffic coming in before the peak hour, traffic coming in after peak hour and over the course of the day. And there you go. There's your testimony right there. There's the daily traffic is almost 1,000 trips over the course of the day. So that this is the moms, the dads, the lunches, the kids going to school, after school, service vehicles, landscapers, all that. That's what you'll see over the course of the day. So when we add that to the bank I just talked about, that gives us 109 trips in the morning, 140 trips in the afternoon, which is less than the trips we have, all right, from the existing use. But the daily traffic is higher. So I was trying to be very prescriptive in demonstrating the peak hours versus the daily. And yes, from the peak hour standpoint, we are generating less traffic in the peak hours. And that's why we're showing a reduction in traffic volumes during the peak hours as part of the peak hour analysis that we've conducted. The daily trips, obviously there's 982 versus 1637. So what does that all mean? It means that what I said before, we have a decrease in the traffic generation for the peak hours. That's our analysis based on analysis. We have an increase with the overall traffic on a daily basis. What does that mean? That means that we have an increase in daily traffic volume with this project. It's a minor increase when compared to the 14,000 vehicles per day on Main Street. So we're dropping the peak hours and we're increasing the traffic over the course of the day. So I want to be very clear that that's what's happening here with this development, with the office being changed up for residential. Office has very peaky traffic, comes in the morning, leaves in the afternoon. Residential has that, but also has trips in between the peak hours. This is from the table before where we showed the distribution. Now this traffic is, again, a reduction. So the increase that we're talking about will be over the course of the day. We're saying about 60% of the traffic over the course of the day will be traveling north, about 40% to the south. Again, this is over the course of the day. This is not every hour. It's over 8, 10 hour, 24-hour day. So that's the traffic we'll be showing, and we are showing as part of our studies. This is an excerpt from the report itself showing that volume itself and the build condition that's at the actual site driveway itself. And so just to kind of finish the presentation, that we're decreasing traffic during peak hours. We're showing an increase over again, of course, across the entire day, an increase. Our traffic impact study focused on the peak hour impacts. We don't do 24-hour capacity analyses. We do in a general sense that Main Street has 14,000 vehicles per day. We're not really increasing a lot of that traffic, but we don't do a capacity analysis, if you will. We do it in the peak hours. And we're also showing traffic will be generated before 8 o'clock in the morning and after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But we're not going to expect to see impacts across the course of the day with the traffic being generated by this development. So that's the traffic generation part of the presentation. We also have additional items we're working on in terms of comments. The comments from the city and city traffic engineer. We are expanding the study area. We don't think we needed to, but we have expanded the study area. And we've added 2 intersections to that. We've done additional traffic counts. They've been done. The data is just coming in now. We're compiling that data. We're going to do additional capacity analyses at those 2 intersections for the same peak hours. We don't expect an impact during the peak hours because we're obviously our generation is reduced. We'll look at improvements that are being requested. Video detection is being asked for. Controllers replacement being asked for. We'll look at that and we'll provide a formal response for the next meeting for the project. So with that, I'll conclude my presentation.
Could I just ask Joe one question, Mr. Chairman?
Of course.
Joe, can you just clarify for the proposed project, is the peak hour you're using AM and PM the same peak hour as the 8 to 9 AM and the 4 to 5 PM?
Yes, we are using what we call the adjacent street peak hour, which is your pre-pandemic traditional peak hour of 8, and in this case, based on the actual traffic counts that we took out there, 8 to 9 and 4 to 5.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Balaskas, commission members at this time? And I apologize, I can't see everybody. So feel free to say something if you have a question. I guess there's none at the moment, of course. So back to you, Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll now go to Ben Dodo.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. For the record, Benjamin Dodo, licensed professional engineer representing the applicant on this project. I'm going to, I made my presentation last time. I went over a lot of the comments that we had received. Subsequent to that, we submitted a formal response under the cover of a letter dated May 9th. I'm going to just go over the highlights of that letter and items that impact the site plan. But before I do that, I'd like to share my screen because Mike Kozlowski's here with Claris, but any questions on the architecture he can answer, but I just want to share, sort of the biggest change to the site. We're addressing some of the architectural comments that were in Allie's letter regarding the front facade on the first floor. So I'm going to share that now. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. So, and I'll let Mike jump in if I miss anything, but basically, the changes that were mainly made were to the lower level front. There were some changes to the color and the texture, and they carried a lot of those changes through all the architecture for the whole building along the top and the back. If anyone has any questions, they can ask them specifically of Mike, but Claris did meet with planning staff before they made these changes, and I think their comments were addressed. I think in my opinion, architecture looks even better now than it did before.
Yeah, real quick, Ben, Mike Kozlowski here with Claris Design Build. Thank you everybody for having me. I know that Phil Clark from our office, who was previously on the meeting, he had met with Jennifer and other staff members about comments about the architecture, about tying in the existing lower level of the front building to what we're doing overall. And that kind of led us down this path of taking a look at the material and color palette. We started with taking the limestone veneer we're doing on the rear building and bringing it to the front building. Previously, we had maintained the existing brick facade and existing window systems. And what we decided to do is bring that limestone veneer to the front building to tie it all together. And then also bring in, introduce a couple more mullions to the storefront where the bank is currently. The way the bank is configured, there's a lot of back of house program in the front of the building. So we really didn't have the ability to add windows there, as most of the banks that are customers that are walking in are walking through the center section of the building in the parking lot interior. What that then did was allowed our architectural team to take a look at the overall color palette. Previously, that upper clapboard band you'll see at the top of both buildings and then continues on the sides of the rear building was a lighter, creamier color. And what we decided to do was tone that down a little bit and tie it in. And what we really think just ties everything together architecturally. This is the only rendering we did with this. Wanted to get everybody's feedback, and we'd be more than happy to provide further renderings that we've been as presented in the past. But just wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit on Ben's comments there.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
So I'm going to now go and sort of share the site plan and just touch on briefly some of the comments that we have addressed with the with respect to that. Can everyone see the screen?
Not yet.
No?
Nope.
Oh, boy. Okay. Let me get to it then. How about now?
Yes,
Now we
sir.
can.
Now we can. Okay, great. Thank you. So this was the plan that was presented at the last meeting. The colored site plan you see there, and some of the comments that were made were with respect to dedicated parking. That was a comment that Ally had. Vera had some comments as to could we straighten this pedestrian crosswalk that links the garage to the building out. And then there were also some questions about fire lane striping was asked to be put around this island here, as well as some EV stations to also be added. So this is the revised plan. Unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to color it, but it's basically the same plan with these changes made. Sort of in reverse, not in reverse order. The other main comment that had to do with the Jim Schullery, the building official, had asked that we revise the handicap calculation, which we've done down in the table. He actually gave the sign off on it. And what it ended up doing was requiring one more handicap spot on site here, which we put. In addressing Vera's comment, I was able to straighten out this crosswalk like this to hit the pedestrian entrance at the garage. Vera had also asked us if a lighted crossing was appropriate. I talked to Joe about it, and we didn't feel that a street crossing would be necessary there, especially the fact that we straightened it out. It is on site. But what we did do is we did add a light pole at one end. And then if you were to look at the photometric plan, which we also submitted, there are some building mounted lights above this pedestrian entrance. So that crosswalk is lit at night. So individuals coming from the garage to the main building have the chance to do that. The EV charging stations, we ended up having to add 32 of them. It's on the zoning table. We also added 2 EV charging spots behind the building on site, and the rest of them, the other 30 of them, are located in one of the upper levels of the parking garage. And that's on the plan. I'd be happy to show it to you, but there's nothing that interesting about that plan other than the EV charging stations that are on there. The plan itself didn't change. The question for dedicated parking spaces, the only dedicated parking spaces we are proposing is for the bank in this area here. And that's only during bank hours. As I had mentioned last time, the CBD zone doesn't have visitor parking requirements. It really relies on a lot of shared parking. So the intent is that any of the tenants can park anywhere they want on this site, except in these spaces right here, proximate to the bank during bank hours. But if it's a Saturday night or Sunday, tenants will be allowed to park in those spaces as well. The parking, the fire lane parking has been added around the island on this plan. We did submit a photometric plan as part of the package as well. Mike already talked about the facade improvements. And then on Kelly's comments, engineering comments they mainly had to do with adding notes to the plans and things of the like. But there was one comment that had to do with the water main. And as I had mentioned, we are extending a city water main. Whoop, that's the sewer main. The water main into the site because the fire marshal had requested that we put a hydrant on the site. The hydrant is still there. It's right here. The easement's been shown on the plan, and Kelly just had asked that we change the alignment of that to straighten it out. Obviously, this water main extension, if this site plan application is approved, we'll have to go through the city council 8-step process for that, and there's notes to that on the plan, as well as the proposed easement being shown there as well. Let's see. And then there was a verbal comment, just that we do acknowledge that if this site plan is approved, that prior to construction, and we understand and on projects like this that the planning staff will condition that a detailed construction sequencing plan be submitted, and we understand and acknowledge that, because obviously this site can't be all done at once. It has to be done in phases, being the fact that that front building, the bank, is going to remain in operation. We are going to have to provide parking for the bank during construction, as well as reconstruct the new driveways and still allow access onto the site. So we do acknowledge that that will be a requirement. I think I'll be happy to answer any detailed questions. I'm not going to go over every point in my four-page letter here, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions at this time for Ben, commission members? And again, forgive me, I can't see everybody. You just
I'll
have to
stop
shout.
sharing there.
Okay. I think we're good.
All right. Next, we're going to go to Abigail, and even though Ben couldn't show green on his plan, Abigail's going to show you where the green's going to go.
That's right. Good evening. For the record, Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect, owner of A2 Land Consulting out of New Fairfield, Connecticut. I have shared my screen, so hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, we got.
Great. So just going to move through this relatively quickly. It is somewhat of a straightforward yet beautiful planting plan, I feel, for this site. As required, we have our typical end island plantings. These are a combination of maple trees for the canopy, and then we have a mix of evergreen shrubs and shrubs such as rhododendron, spirea, hydrangea, and then ornamental grasses, just to give some vibrancy as you drive throughout the site and some shade to the parking. In the central island here, we have a couple of specimen evergreen trees. We've left the space open for the water main and hydrant easement that Mr. Dodo was just talking about a little earlier. That was one of the comments in the letter that we addressed and we revised based on the updated site plan. And again, daylilies, hydrangeas, rhododendrons, just a really nice mix of planting material coming through the site here. Along the facade of the building, we have a mix of viburnums and again, some low shrubs and evergreens in the end island, some screening for the refuse area as well as around the generator area, transformer area here. Along the southern side, we have a hedging of yews and then some viburnums for both spring color flowers and then fall color for that seasonal interest. Along the front of the building, the streetscape, we have two of the canopy trees here for the end island. Then there's an existing tree right here at the exit to the bank and the drive-through around here. And then we tried to create a nice streetscape with some entry plantings here for the walkway as you come into the site, and then plantings along the front foundation walkway here, and then some nice sign planting in this location. The sides of the building, we've left open lawn just for maintenance purposes. We need to have some ways get around the building and be able to maintain and do what we need to do to the sides of the building. In the back, we're proposing some tall, narrow, upright ginkgos. And then we have hydrangea along the back here. And again, we have a hedge of yews with some rows of Sharon mixed in for some color to create a really nice outdoor back area in this location here for the tenants to use that area. So overall, really, we're just trying to look for a really great four-season interest and also looking to use plant material that's going to hold up in a parking lot situation like we have here. So I think those are all the main points. And again, I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Commission members, any questions for Abigail? I guess not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes. Go ahead, Ben.
Abigail, yes. I know I said I was done speaking, but I'm not. Abigail's presentation reminded me of one more comment. Ally had asked in her letter if we could provide some additional screening on the refuse areas. So Abigail handled it with landscaping, but I also on my plan, the one that the refuse area to the south, again, that's just for recycling. That was previously had 3 sides screened. Now it's all 4 sides are screened. And then the area up to the north, it's sort of at the northeast corner. Nope. Where
am I? Where am I, Ben?
It's right. Yeah, right up there above the loading. That's as I had mentioned last time, we have that's a trash compactor. It was previously screened on 2 sides, and now I'm putting fencing around 3 sides of it. So, and just to remind you, the CBD zone is, I'm pretty sure, the only zone in town that doesn't require any screening of dumpsters. But we're doing it, and we've added to it. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just one quick point, Mr. Chairman, and then you can open it up to the public. I just wanted to note for the commission that when Dr. Poland wrote his report, that was back in November, and that was 2 months before you adopted your new POCD.
Got it.
And that's
Thank you.
all we have at this point. I'll wrap up tonight's presentation after public participation.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Beecher. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Again, my screen only shows 12 people, so if there is, please just shout out. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Councilman Perkins, Dwayne, all you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, Dwayne Perkins, 22 Main Street. I'm also a member of the Danbury City Council. Not necessarily here to speak for or against. I just want to continue where I left off at the last meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Let me just start. Mr. Belkis, no disdain to your level of expertise in determining traffic impact, traffic flows. I and the residents in this area just want to see and hear data presented in a way that, at least in our opinion, doesn't defy gravity, and then be told the same thing over and over again. Because when we are in that posture, it kind of starts to go down that avenue of a form of like psychological warfare, in my opinion. So I think I heard today that we actually will have a traffic increase of 655 trips per day. I don't believe I heard that last time. So maybe we can provide a little bit more clarification on that. And as far as someone mentioning 208 cars leaving at the same time every morning, I don't remember hearing that. And that's another kind of thing that wouldn't necessarily make a bunch of sense, because we know that things typically do not work that way. But I do have a question. I sat through the whole meeting last time. I've sat through this one the whole time, and we all know that Main Street is a state road, a major artery. Has anyone on this team contacted the state of Connecticut Department of Transportation to potentially stripe parts of Main Street from Elmwood to South Street in a way to help with the proper flow of traffic? So that's a question to whom it might go to. Mr. Poland mentioned a lot of things about data and student enrollment. I was just wondering if he can tell us the amount of students that he would expect in 1 or 2 years in this complex, because he put up a number that was quite minuscule at 0.058%. What if that percentage did play out? How many students can we expect to be in there a year or so after completion? And also, is there some type of, for lack of better words, multiplier effect that would let us see what a trend would look like in several years to come? People sometimes keep having kids, sometimes they stop at 1 or 2. So I'd be interested to hear what his data would represent in that regard. This is a general question, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not sure who would answer it, but I would like to know I know this is all affordable housing. I believe Attorney Beecher mentioned something to the effect of statutorily affordable under A30G. So in my opinion, that would mean all of these units here would be considered affordable units. My question is, again, through you, Mr. Chairman, is will this project include any senior housing? And one of my last questions, and I'll probably have a couple more in a minute, would be to Ms. Adams concerning some of the landscaping. She did mention some maples. I hope they're not going to be Norway maples, because I'm sure she and I understand it in this area, those are considered invasive. But I like hearing about the Rose of Sharon, because typically that variety can be, pretty heavily pruned back, and it always makes a nice opportunity for hedging. So maybe instead of putting some of those yews along that south side fence, she might want to reconsider and putting a whole stream of the Rose of Sharon, or even some oak leaf hydrangea, because that will also give a nice little winter appeal. The early blooms and that nice exfoliating bark is also very attractive. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that those are my concerns, and I think I'm done for now. Thank you for your.
Okay, Wayne, I hope Attorney Beecher was taking notes there. I'll call the rest of the opposition, but there were some questions about, for Mr. Poland, I think. There was questions about affordable housing for Attorney Beecher, a couple of questions about landscaping for Abigail. So we'll get back to those after I finish calling the opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Is that you, Mr. Rotello?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. For the record, Paul Rotello, 13 Linden Place, Danbury, also like Councilman Perkins on the city council. And this is kind of a city council question since Ben Dodo mentioned a water line extension for a hydrant. This has to come to the council, obviously, and the question will be asked at that point. But since I'm here, Ben is here, I might as well ask it right now, get it out of the way. During annual flushing, where would the water go? So that's my question, directed through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone else in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, Attorney Beecher, you've heard I think just about your entire team had at least one question posed. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start with my part. The last time during my presentation, I talked about the fact that the Nolans either own or manage over 100 units of statutory categorized affordable housing in the South Main Street area. In addition, you should know that there's over 400 units of statutory affordable housing in the South Main Street area. This particular project, however, is not going to be earmarked as statutory affordable housing. And by that, in simple terms, it's deed restricted housing for 40 years, and the occupants must meet certain minimum income requirements in order to qualify. But this is not that kind of a project. It may well have some seniors, but it's also not, none of the units are earmarked as 55 and older units. In terms of the questions for Mr. Balskis, we're going to not respond to that tonight because we're in the process of getting some additional traffic counts, and I think it makes more sense for us to just address that next time when those counts are done. And Dr. Poland, if you could just briefly address the question about the statistics, if they were slightly changed as opposed to what you studied and reported on.
Right. So my report included a detailed methodology on kind of projecting the enrollments from this development. The total projected enrollments from the 208 units based on the unit mix would be 12. And once again, remember, 92% of these units are studios and 1 bedrooms. Only 7.7% of the units are 2 bedrooms. So that's why that number comes in so low. As for projecting out years in advance, years later, that number would remain at 12. It is the bedroom mix that is ultimately going to drive the number of school-age children that you get within the development, and then ultimately the enrollments that come out of those. Just for the record, I've studied these enrollments in real time across the state. And I just want to give one example. 1,863 units in the town of Ellington, multifamily housing existing for, at least 3 decades. And in actual enrollments from the Board of Ed to actually show us what the exact enrollments were based on the bedroom mixes and so forth, the ratio came out to 0.159 enrollments per unit over 1,800 units. The fact is, multifamily residential, especially when it is predominantly 1 and 2 bedroom with not many 3 bedrooms, generates very few. Just one other demographic statistic. 42% of renters in the state of Connecticut are single person households. So 42% of rental units will not have any children associated with them. So I'm confident in these numbers. It's 12.
Thank you. Abigail, you want to address the landscape question?
Absolutely. Again, for the record, Abigail Adams. My questions were relatively easy, so thank you. Absolutely no Norway maples, never proposed them ever, invasive, and definitely not a good match. So the maples that we are proposing are two different varieties of red maple. So we have the Bohall and the Autumn Flame, I think. Yep, and the Autumn Flame. Gorgeous fall color on both of them. I think they'll be a really nice addition to the site. I think we can absolutely look at adding some more rows of Sharon in the back, taking out some yews. We do want to keep a little bit of an evergreen hedge there to create a nice courtyard for the backyard area. There will be people, you know, if they happen to have animals or whatever, walking in the winter. So we thought that would be nice for both the neighbors and for the tenants of this particular building. And I do have a couple of oak leaf hydrangeas already on there, but it's a beautiful shrub, and we could definitely look at adding some more of that in the back as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Abigail.
Ben, do you want to just address the annual flush for Mr. Rotella?
Sure. The hydrant, we've seen where it's located. It's located on that center island. It'll go to the nearest catch basin, which in that area is due west of it. It'll be collected in our storm sewer system.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Yep.
Jennifer, I don't think we're in a position to close this public hearing. Can you just, where are we on this?
Thank you, Mr. Yeah, I was going to wrap up on that topic, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, I'm sorry, Tom. My apologies. I can't see everybody, so go right ahead.
Thank you. With respect to the city reports and comments we've received so far, Rob Barone of Construction Services was satisfied with Ben's changes and explanations in his most recent submission. Fire Marshal is fine with the site plan. Ben's plans addressed the building officials' comments. We've addressed pretty much all of the staff report comments, and we believe most of Kelly Green's comments. With respect to the city traffic engineer and his report, as Joe explained, we're doing additional traffic counts at his request. And I presume we really need to wait for hopefully final report from Kelly Green based on our recent submission. So at least from our perspective, we need to hold the public hearing open. And I've already submitted a letter of extension for that purpose. So with that, I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Beecher. Jen, does that sound about right? Some traffic, some engineering, we have to leave it open?
Well, he stole my thunder, so yes. Tom is correct. Our recommendation would be to keep the hearing open until we receive the response letter to the traffic engineer's staff report and allow staff enough time to review the revisions. And as Tom said, we do have the extension in place to take us to the June 7th meeting.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Commission members, unless there's any other discussion, I will entertain a motion to continue to our next meeting.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Helen.
Okay, a motion made by Helen, seconded by Kevin. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This matter will be continued until our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
And we are going to move right ahead, Commission members, to our second item under continuation of public hearings. Blackman Enterprises LLC, property owner. NSK Petroleum Wholesale Inc. is the prospective purchaser. Application for special exception revised site plan approval for automobile service and convenience market, section 3E9 and 5A2B, and trip generation in excess of 500 vehicle trips per day, section 3E5, the CG20 zone, 32 Germantown Road, J11362, special exception 791. Commission members, several documents have been submitted on this particular application since we opened the hearing. There's a letter in response to staff concerns, updated map set, and some photos and videos that I hope everybody had an opportunity to see, which were very interesting. With that, I will ask if there is anyone in favor of this, wishing to speak in favor of this application. Back to you, Attorney Beecher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, I represent NSK Petroleum Wholesale, Inc., the prospective purchaser of this property. With me this evening on this application are Michelle McCauley, who, as we mentioned earlier, is subbing for Dynas this evening. Abigail Adams is also on this project as our landscape engineer. And Joe Balskis is also on this application as our traffic engineer. Since the last time we were here, we have filed a number of revisions and additional documents for your consideration. And tonight we'll go through what's new and hopefully address everything. We'll start with Michelle, then we'll go to Joe and then Abigail. Michelle?
Hi, good evening. Michelle McCauley with Artel Engineering. As Tom said, I'm in Dynas' stead tonight. I'm going to share the plans. So, can you see them?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I'm just going to walk us through some of the revisions that we made to the plans. The first is that, Dynas may have went over some of this, but I'm going to go over it again. We eliminated a parking space in the northern portion of the property near the entranceway. This allows for unobstructed conflict, for the cars to back out. So, I'm sorry, I lost my space. So it just eliminates any potential conflicts coming in and out of the entrance there. We relocated the handicap space as requested. It was previously on the southern side, and it's now on the northern side of the building. And they have access directly to the sidewalk to go right into the building. We moved the trash enclosure space further back a little bit so that the parking spaces have room for the vehicles to back up and exit without impeding into the area of the trash enclosure. As requested, we relocated the tire air supply tower from the northern side of the building to the southern side of the building. We provided an entrance only at the northern section, so cars can only enter in the northern driveway opening, and they can exit out of the southern exit area. We also provided let me just flip through this plans for you, a vehicle fueling plan. So what we did is we showed cars situated at all the fueling pumps, and we showed a vehicle entering in the northern entrance and bypassing and going along the building in between the most western fueling station and coming through, and they can either park or they can exit out if all the pumps are busy. I also provided a tanker fueling plan, which shows the fuel tanker pulling in, being able to fill the fuel, the underground fuel tanks, doing his movements, and then exiting the site. And then we also provided a plan to show delivery truck movements, also coming in the entrance only and coming through the site, coming towards the exit, and then backing up into the loading space, which we also provided on the plan. And I know that you had mentioned about the videos. I can show them to you and go through those and some of the pictures that we had taken. Can you see the pictures?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So Dynas and I went out to the site and we placed some cones where the edge of the fueling island would be. So that's these cones here. Again, we measured to show where the fueling island would end, and then back here is the beginning, the tape measure to show from that island to the building. I'm just going to walk you through. So you can see the tape measure going across, and it ends at that next cone there. And you can see my car and Dynas's car. And then you could see us, as if I was getting fuel and him pulling through and going to the southerly parking area. Just another view of that. Just another angle just to show the measurements. And this is Dynas pulling through, as you can see, can drive through unimpeded without any conflicts. And I just took a quick video just to show, the cone, where the edge of the park sidewalk would be, where my car was, and where the end of the island was. So you could see that there's plenty of room to get through. And then they also had a lot of cars parked there, so you could see with all the cars and how the ability to get through the area unimpeded. And then we also went to 241 White Street, which has a similar setup, and we just wanted to show that it functions as well. So you can see Dynas was pulling in. There was a car fueling. He was able to drive through and go right around. There was another car pulling in. Just a video to demonstrate, because it's a very similar setup as ours. I think that was all the revisions we made to the plans. If anyone has any questions.
Questions, commission members? Anyone at this time? Oh, Helen, go ahead. Helen, all you.
I had to unmute. I guess I'm in the similar station. Is there room to also go on the other side of the pumps to get out? Or is this the same situation where you go right to the curb with the pumps and the cars filling up?
It's a similar situation. You'd have to go through where Dynas pulled through to get through.
All right, and do you anticipate based on like peak hours going into the using the store there, that you would wind up bottlenecking over to where people come in? And if so, I mean, do you anticipate in the busiest times that you would have bottlenecks where people would be stuck until, well, I don't know. Do you anticipate people being stuck if somebody doesn't, winds up, blocking the exit that you've chosen? Do you anticipate traffic problems that coming in and, trying to maneuver around there to get out?
Well, no, because we have that lane that, should remain clear. So if all the pumps are taken, they come in, they can either park or, wait, or they can drive through, park on the southern side, or they could leave, drive through and leave. There's no parking in that one
So you don't
area.
anticipate blocking of that aisle to get around?
No,
Okay.
It's not a parking space. It's just like a travel way through.
Well, I know, but no, I'm talking about the people who are queuing in behind the people that are gassing up.
No, I
you
don't.
get 3 or 4 of them and they kind of, how that might go.
Yeah, no, I know. No, I don't anticipate any issues.
Do you anticipate the parking spaces being filled up during peak hours?
There's always a
In other words,
potential.
I don't know what kind of traffic is actually in the site in the busiest times, and I'm not getting a good feel for what that is. So I don't know if you know what that is.
I could offer one explanation, Helen, and that is that the city traffic engineer anticipated in his report, he stated that there will be 26 round trips to the site during the morning peak hour and 30 trips to the site during the afternoon peak hour. And that's 60 minutes, spreading out that 26 in the morning or 30 in the afternoon. So, we've got lots of parking spaces there, and there's a little bit of room for, a car to be behind each pump lane without causing any congestion. So I think based on what the city traffic engineer provided to us, I think that answers your question, I think. That if you have.
Okay, I'm talking, yes, thank you for that, for the peak hour information. But I'm just asking if based on that figure, whether you anticipate any issues, and what I think you're telling me is no.
Correct.
Okay.
There's a lot of parking and there's room, and and Mr. Balskas said this last time, and I believe it in all the years I've gone to gas stations. Human nature is that if it looks busy, people will just drive by and do it again, on the way home if it's busy in the morning and so forth. So, and even human nature, people are less likely to use those last pumps closest to the road. They're always going to want the pumps closer to the building. So that lane could be open often as well.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, one more question, if you don't mind. Is there any special marking that you are planning on putting into this, into that pathway where you can get around, that sort of confirms for the drivers that if they wanted to bypass getting gas, that they would know exactly what to do?
We didn't provide any markings, but I guess we could put like no parking along that strip there so that people don't park there.
Something that would indicate if you want to get out of here, you go this way, to confirm to them. So it helps people, it helps facilitate traffic where people do want to, go bypass the whole situation if it's too busy. That's, I guess, was my question. So
maybe we could cross-hatch it.
Yeah, I would say we can cross-hatch it, maybe put an arrow, for a direction arrow on the ground.
Something. Right, something as an aid to the driver. Yes, that would be good.
Okay.
Okay.
Attorney Beecher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay, then next we're going to go to Joe Balskis.
You're muted, Joe.
Sorry, I had a double mute. I had my speaker and the Zoom mute going. Sorry about that. Again, Joe Balskis for record, licensed professional engineer, traffic engineer for the project. We had a presentation last time, and we met with the city traffic engineer and city staff, myself and Tom Beecher, and talked about the improvements that were being recommended by the city traffic engineer. I documented that in a memorandum that was submitted to the city this morning. I don't know if you've seen it. I can go through that, where we basically talked about the crosswalk improvements that were recommended. We agreed upon a crosswalk being a painted crosswalk across Germantown Road, and provisions for that crosswalk, including pedestrian signals and things like that. We also talked about the need for adjusting the timing of that signal to accommodate that, and that was discussed. The city was going to tackle that in terms of what change would be needed for the signal timing to accommodate the pedestrian crossing on Germantown Road. And then we also talked about the video detection. We didn't see need for video detection. City traffic engineer thinks there's a need for it. So that's kind of where we left it in terms of comments, and nothing substantial in terms of the traffic study itself. Just the improvements that were talked about and commented on in the April 12th plan from the city traffic engineer. So from our standpoint, we're agreeable with the crosswalk across Germantown Road, a painted crosswalk, changes to the signal to accommodate the pedestrian signals that are needed, and then the provision of the signal itself. We're not expecting to do any change to the controller itself, but we also recognize the city is looking to have video detection to be provided at the intersection. So with that, I'll conclude and be available to answer any questions.
Questions for Joe, anybody at this point? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Jen.
if I may, excuse me. In response to Joe's letter dated from this morning, yes, we did through a Zoom call, we agreed between myself, Ally, and Vera that the painted crosswalk was fine. We had lengthy discussions about the video detection equipment. And again, we feel the increased generation at the intersection and the additional ingress and egress movements at the site driveway warrant additional detection beyond the traditional loop detectors that exist today. The video detection equipment enhances safety within that busy corridor. So it's staff suggestion, recommendation that we concur with the city traffic engineer's recommendation of the video detection equipment. Again, it enhances traffic safety at that intersection. It's not just about detecting the vehicles, it's about seeing where there are delays coming up Sand Pit, the delays in the coming up between Great Plain and Shepherd, Osborne Street. There's a lot of legs to that intersection that the video equipment would be able to view and again, be able to change sequencing as needed. Again, it's key to the safety of the intersection. So we would implore the commission to require those video detection, that video detection equipment.
Thanks, Jen. Tom?
Abigail would go next with her plan.
Good evening. For the record, Abigail Adams, registered landscape architect, owner of A2 Land Consulting out of New Fairfield, Connecticut. We have made, I presented the plan at the last meeting, so there's no major changes to this. We have revised the plan, obviously based on the updated site plan. And again, revisions were minor. We did add the site distances on here. We've moved the trees out of that, and we've changed the shrubs and the configuration of this island in order to have very low shrubbery, ground cover evergreens in this location. And then it's just lawn over here for site distances and safety. For that reason, we have updated the end island and entry planting here as well. And then just minor shifts that were needed in order to accommodate the refuse area shifting back, and then also for the air compressor pump in this location. So again, super minor changes based on the updated site plan. So not too much to discuss tonight.
Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's it, although I would like the opportunity to finalize things after public comment if there is any.
I'll remember that this time, Attorney Beecher. My apologies for that. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Anyone else in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Anyone in opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Commission members, I believe we're in a position to close. Jen, can you confirm that? I don't think we're waiting for anything.
Mr. Chairman, we are not waiting for anything per se. The traffic engineer has not had a chance to review the revised plans or the memo that Joe Balskis wrote this morning. But again, we agreed in person to go with the standard crosswalk. And again, the commission would just have to decide before you close about the video detection equipment. Those were the outstanding comments from the traffic engineer. The city engineer had already signed off. So if it pleases the commission, you can certainly close, and any additional comments that would come from the traffic engineer could come after the close of the hearing.
Are you saying that we should, Attorney Beecher, just one second, Jen, we should discuss the video detection as a commission before we close the public hearing?
Correct. You need to provide guidance.
You're gonna have to.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said, I don't think you're gonna have to.
Oh,
I didn't want to steal your thunder this time, Jen, but I didn't.
Go right ahead, Attorney Beecher.
I didn't get to go. So, would you like me to go now?
Yes, please, by all means.
Okay. Well, just to wrap things up, Rob Barone of Construction Services has indicated he's satisfied with the revised plans. The fire marshal signed off on the plans. We've filed the lighting plan. We addressed the building official's comments with the accessible parking. The city engineer had no comments. And I believe we addressed all of Jen and Ally's comments. And so, with respect to the traffic engineers reports and our meeting of Jen and Vera and Joe and myself, we agreed that the crosswalk could be a painted crosswalk rather than the stamped concrete crosswalk. And I believe, and Jen can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a condition of approval prior to a certificate of occupancy or zoning compliance. And with respect to the technology upgrades, we would like to close the hearing tonight, and my client will abide by whatever you decide in your resolution of approval, even if that includes the detection. So I don't see any reason to hold the public hearing open. We'd like to move forward. I think everything's been addressed.
Thank you for that, Attorney Beecher. If I interpret that properly, the applicant is willing to move forward with the video detection system as requested by the city. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay. Commission members, knowing that, does anyone have any thoughts on keeping it open or closing it? And if you're so inclined, I'll entertain a motion to close.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be in favor of closing the hearing and would motion as such.
Motion to close has been made. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I guess, Jen, we can move this to item 1 under old business for guidance, right? Okay, can I get a motion to move this matter to item 1 on our old business for discussion and possible action agenda? So moved, Helen?
Yes, I'll move, yeah.
And
Second.
by Perry. Okay, the motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, which brings us to item 1 under our old business for discussion and possible action. Good timing this evening. Nope, hold on. Blackman Enterprises LLC, property owner, NSK Petroleum Wholesale Inc., prospective purchaser, application for special exception revised site plan approval for automobile service station and convenience market, sections 3E9 and 582B, and trip generation in excess of 500 vehicle trips per day, section 3E2 in the CG20 zone, 32 Germantown Road, J11362, special exception 791. With regard to guidance, I'll go first, Jen, if I could. I don't usually do that, but what the heck? Initially, I had some concerns about this one. I think it continues to be a tight site, but I'm okay with it. I think that we're getting the crosswalks, we're getting sidewalks. I think the videos were very helpful because they did show the travel lane clear, which I was happy to see. We're also getting the video detection system, which, as you mentioned, is a big improvement over just the regular loop detectors. It's just a broader and a better source of information than the typical loop detector. And I understand, I think Helen made a good point. You're always going to get somebody who, instead of parking in a parking space, parks in a travel lane and runs in to get a bottle of Coca-Cola. That will happen, but that's just lack of consideration rather than a flaw in the design of the site. So with that said, I'm okay with it, and I'll let my other commissioners comment.
Mr. Chairman, I think you covered much of what I would have said. My concerns were largely around the traffic, the flow of traffic. It being kind of a wonky intersection, it's always a little awkward there. So I was pleased to hear that we will get the video detection system because I think that's key to keeping things safe there. And like you said, I do think it'll be tight. I shared some of the concerns that Helen went over. And like White Street, I think it'll be tight there. But like Mr. Balskis said, I don't think people will come in if it looks tight, if there's nowhere to go. So I think as long as the traffic is flowing there, otherwise we'll be able to avoid most of the problems.
Thank you, Perry. Kevin or Helen, anything to add?
Okay, I'll go. I am concerned about the tightness of the situation. People, getting, whatever. It's human behavior. Might say, if you're trapped, you're going to get angry, and God knows. But I think having the lane or something to make it obvious where you can go to get around it, it would be helpful. So I appreciate your consideration on that. So those are my comments.
Anything to add, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's too tight. It's 16 feet. It's kind of what it looked like in the picture there. And if you park a full-size truck, you've gobbled up 8 feet of that at least, or 9 feet from the pump. I don't see how you can fit through that spot with people walking in and out the door of the store on the sidewalk to go out to their car. I just think it's too tight.
I would respond, I agree that it's tight. However, when you start getting down to a car can get through and a big truck can't, I'm not sure I would be comfortable issuing a denial based on that argument alone. It's tight. We all acknowledge that, but then you'd have to start getting into how many cars go.
They used White Street as an example, but White Street has 3 entrances and exits. All the entrances, you can come in on the side road or leave on the side road, and you can go out either entrance on this. This place here, everybody is funneled through that 8 or 9 foot swath of thing right next to the front door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jen, there's your guidance. I mean, you know, I don't know what else I can say. We're not taking a vote, certainly. So
Yep.
You've heard what the commission members have to say, and we'll have to go from there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one thing that I'll make sure when Ally and I draft the resolution that we include a condition and a requirement that the site plan be revised to show no parking striping along that front entrance to prevent anyone parking within that drive aisle.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Painting something in that travel lane, crosshatch, directional arrows, something, no parking, whatever you could do to improve and notify people of what that's supposed to be. That's a good idea also. Okay.
And we'll also include, I'm sorry, just one more thing. We'll also include additional language with respect to the crosswalk, because that does need to be designed. It's not shown on the plan. So we'll, as we've done in previous projects prior to zoning permit, that design will need to be submitted and vetted through Public Works and the traffic engineer. So that'll be an additional condition.
Okay, Jen, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, commission members, we have 3 8-3A referrals this evening, and we're going to go through them in order. The first one is an 8-3A referral petition of South Park Properties LLC, 130, 132, 134, 136 South Street, J15059, J15058, and J15056 for change of zone from CN5 to CCBD. The zoning commission meeting on this matter is scheduled for May 23rd of 2023. Jen, are you going to handle these 3?
I certainly am going to handle these.
Okay, go right ahead.
All right. So the first one, we've received a petition to rezone 3 parcels on South Street from CN5 to CCBD. One lot contains a non-conforming 2-family, one is vacant, and the 3rd lot contains a single-family dwelling. They total approximately 36,000 square feet. The area to be rezoned is just under an acre, as it includes a portion of the right-of-way on South Street. The reasons for the request are provided in the petition. If you recall, you saw it on the agenda. It didn't actually come before the commission because they withdrew before we presented it. But the applicant submitted a petition at the beginning of the year, I believe. And it was for a change from the CN5 to the RMF4 zone. But it was withdrawn in favor of submitting a petition that was consistent with the POCD. Sharon has in her staff report detailed the surrounding zones. I'm not going to go through that. She shows it very well on that map that she provided. Rezoning would extend the CBD a bit east along the southern side of South Street I should note that a change to the CBD would allow changes in use on all the lots to any use allowed in the CBD zone. The CN zone is a neighborhood commercial zone in which multifamily is not permitted and commercial uses are limited, while the CBD zone allows a variety of commercial uses and multifamily. The 2023 future land use map designates these parcels as appropriate for downtown mixed use. A strategy recommended in the POCD is to extend the CBD zone as appropriate. A rezoning is consistent with the POCD and provides opportunities for a mix of uses on the combined properties. In conclusion, rezoning to the CBD would extend the existing district and is consistent with the POCD future land use map. Staff has no objection to the zone change request. The one thing I just ask to remind you that you are required to provide a statement of finding on consistency with the POCD, and your reasons have to be noted. Any questions? And I went through that very quickly, but Sharon did such a good job on the staff report that I felt I could go fairly quickly.
Commission members, any questions for Jen? Hearing
I'm
none.
here.
Wait, no, I got one.
Oh, please.
Jen, so this CC, it'll be the center zoning district. Is there gonna be a gap? Is this gonna be a little solely isolated place, or are we gonna?
No,
do
no,
all the way
not
down
at
West
all.
Main Street?
No, so I'm wishing I had, hold on, let me
'Cause it
see if I can
stops
bring
at
up
the
that.
grocery store, right?
Yeah, no, the CBD, I'm looking at that map that Sharon included in her staff report. It's CBD all the way across the street that goes to Town Hill. And then right in front of the War Memorial, that's CBD. And then it starts CN5 where she has those 3 dots where the proposed zone changes. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 properties on that side of South Street before you get to South Avenue. So again, it would be consistent starting from Memorial Drive to the east. So there is no gap.
So
Do
this
you want
is,
me to bring up that? Do you want me to bring up that map? Would it be helpful?
yeah, so we're not changing it to city center business district. It's being just changed to CBD.
CBD,
That's-
correct.
Central Business District, I think that's the. actual
Yes.
name.
Yes,
What was that?
it's the central business district. Joe, can you zoom in on that?
Okay.
So where you see those 3 blue dots, that's where the zone changes. The pink is the CBD, which is the central business district. That light blue is the CN5. So those 3 dotted properties would be are part of the request that would go from CN5 to CBD. So there is no gap as you had asked, Kevin.
Okay.
And this is, again, Jen, what we're kind of looking for in terms of, you're gonna go with the denser housing, you want access to transit, you want access to, that sort of thing, rather than isolated somewhere. So that's, and is this, forgive me, I haven't been down there in a while. Is one of these dwellings very dilapidated? Is that what I'm thinking of?
One
Yeah, I
them's a
think 2
really
of
old
them are
house.
they're pretty dilapidated.
Any other questions for Jennifer? And if not, I'll entertain a motion if you're so inclined for a positive referral or a negative referral or whatever referral you want to make.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion for a positive referral on this item.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Can you state your reasons on the record, please?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. For their consistency with the POCD as outlined in Sharon's staff report.
Do I hear a
Okay.
second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Helen. Any discussion? Again, this is a motion for a positive referral. A yes vote is for a positive referral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This matter gets a positive referral to the zoning commission. We'll go right to item 2. A3A referral, petition of Bright Ravens IS Danbury LLC to amend section 5B2A, 5B4, and 8C4F of the zoning regulations, add hotel conversion as a permitted use with specific use requirements in this, to the CA80 zone and add parking calculations to the off-street parking table. Zoning Commission, public hearing scheduled for May 23rd, 2023. Jen, I see a long report here from Sharon. Are you going to take this one too?
I am.
Okay, all you.
So this one I will not speak through. You know, I try not to read verbatim, but in some cases I will, only because there's really important points that Sharon makes in her staff report that I don't want to mince words with. With that, I'll start. So if I go too long and you want to cut me off, get the hook out and say, Jen, you're going too long.
No,
So we've received a petition to amend sections 5B2A, 5B4, 8C4F4 to add hotel conversion as a permitted use with specific use requirements in the CA80 zone. This amendment would allow for the conversion of an existing hotel for a multifamily apartment house use, which may include a mix of other uses. The amendment also adds the use to the parking requirements, which is the 8C4 reference. Sharon takes the time to speak about the conditions of Lake Avenue and the Mill Plain corridor, and how that corridor has evolved over time and the increasing traffic volumes, which we all know that's a continuing issue. While some uses have been added over time, certain uses, which include apartment houses, garden apartments, as well as fast food restaurants, have consistently been prohibited. This amendment mentions the addition of, in quotes, innovation studios as a new use. Staff queries what that use category falls in under the CA80 zone. It's not apparent to us. So again, we're just asking the question. Sharon also mentions the use of the language, again, in quotes, conversion of an existing hotel from multifamily apartment use. This is a different use term. You don't acknowledge this. So we would just recommend using the correct nomenclature so it's consistent with the zoning regulations. So moving to page 3 under general comments, in that first paragraph, and this is where I'm going to quote because it is important, there is no doubt that the proposed amendment would result in the opportunity to create housing units. The questions to consider are whether these types of dwelling units in the CA80, as proposed under this amendment, are in demand, and if so, would they meet Danbury's housing needs? Hotel rooms are typically much smaller than average size apartments, and given the changes required by the building code, the resulting living space for the occupants may, as a result, be further reduced. And to this point, in a 2023 News Times article, speaking about the conversion of the hotel at 18 Old Ridgeberry, Mr. Bertram indicated that the efficiency units would be approximately 350 square feet in size. This is about 250 square feet smaller than the studio efficiency units advertised elsewhere in the city, and 221 square feet smaller than the average size studios advertised at Kennedy Flats. And in terms of the 1-bedroom units, those would be approximately, again, and this is based on the article, would be approximately 650 square feet. This compares to other 1-bedrooms throughout the city between anywhere from 743 to 885 square feet, so much lower. And Sharon goes on to note, she talks about, again, the American Planning Association has a report about these micro apartments and where that demand comes from. Per our 2022 Affordable Housing Plan, and consistent with Attorney Beecher's representation in the petition, population trends suggest that Danbury struggles to retain and attract young adults, and the population of baby boomers that have remained in Danbury is large. While these appear to be the target market for the converted hotel units, the proposed amendment does not address the affordability of rents, nor does the location for the two sites to which it would apply satisfy the criteria consistent with why renters choose these small apartments. The Bright Raven site, as well as the Hilton Gardens Inn, which is the other location identified in Attorney Beecher's petition, are distant from places of work, neighborhood amenities, transit, and proliferate the dependency on the automobile. Walking to and from commercial uses is also a challenge, particularly as to the old Ridgeberry site, and especially for aging baby boomers. Contrary to other urban high rent markets in the country where micro apartments are either in demand or in existence, where they thrive, are in those big cities such as Seattle, New York City, San Francisco. The two properties to which this amendment would apply are on the fringe of the CA 80 zone and are not in pedestrian and transit-friendly locations, nor do they provide opportunities to expand living options near downtown jobs and amenities. The speaking to housing affordability, the Affordable Housing Plan provides a housing needs assessment. Sharon details all those numbers in her report. Of particular importance to note is that gap analysis, which I'm sure you all remember, concluded that the development of rental units with the monthly rent below $1,800 and especially below $783 per month should be the focus of efforts to expand affordable rental housing supply in Danbury. The petition includes no income restriction for any of the units that could be developed in a hotel converted apartment house. In the case of the Bright Raven site, rents for 350 square foot efficiency units and 650 square foot one bedrooms will be closer to $1,810. Based on unit size, staff queries how rents at this level for recent college grads that have no affordability restriction actually address housing affordability. Staff is also concerned that affordability may not be Staff is concerned that affordability may not be resolved by unit size. Without any affordability requirement or income restriction, rents will be set at market rates at the developer's discretion and can and will likely to increase over time at a faster pace than commensurate increases in household income. The petition proposes to add new dwelling units to the commercial zone to create small market rate housing units, but without any affordable housing component. Staff queries how the city's affordable housing inventory is helped in this instance. I'm on page 5 at this point under open space. Staff raises significant concerns relative to the lack of a requirement for any open space per unit for this use. In every other zoning district in which apartment houses are allowed, except the CBD, and under specific instances under the housing redevelopment option, open space is a requirement. The lack of a requirement in the CBD is appropriate and not comparable to the lack thereof in the CA 80. Public parks and other open space are provided in the CBD, and there's a rich pedestrian environment that is continuing to be improved and accessible to residents. Such is not the case for a converted hotel site at the fringe of the arterial commercial district. Any consideration of the petition should include a revision to require open space on the property using the same requirements that exist for other apartment houses in the residential zones. I'm going to take a break for a second. I need some water.
No problem, Jen. We all know it's an 8-page report, single space, so lots of stuff in it.
Lots of good stuff. So moving on, Sharon went through in detail with section 5B, again, per the petition. With respect to the hotel conversion, again, we feel a more appropriate use would be hotel to apartment house mixed use, as opposed to hotel conversion. Under 5B4F, to allow for the redevelopment of existing hotels for multifamily apartment use, which may include a mix of uses subject to the following. Again, this is the petitioner's language. A multifamily apartment use is a term phrase that is inconsistent with the zoning regulations. This needs a revision. Staff also advises that the word may be amended to a shall, to ensure that the converted hotel contains a mix of uses. Again, a may doesn't require that. If not, and as proposed in the petition, the converted hotel could just be an apartment house as opposed to a mix of uses. With respect to the minimum lot area being 6 acres, this restriction is intended to limit the potential use within the zone. Staff has identified only one other site that meets that acreage, and that's the Hilton Garden Inn, which is located to the west of the Danbury Green Shopping Center. There are, however, 5 other hotels in the CA 80 zone. The acreage restriction does raise concerns that other hotel operators might claim that there is no nexus between the acreage restriction and the protection of the public health, welfare, and safety, and therefore the acreage minimum results in inequitable treatment of the same use. This could lead to an appeal of the petition if approved, and future requests for variances from the size restriction and or additional regulatory amendments could happen. Additionally, the CA 80 and the CG 20 have similar uses. It's not unreasonable for the commissions to assume that excuse me, operators outside the CA 80 zone would also seek the same type of hotel conversion. And to be honest, before COVID, we were getting those types of requests, and we, consistently said, no, it's not permitted. So we know that there is interest out there. So staff queries the commissions to consider the potential citywide impacts associated with converting hotels to residential mixed-use buildings, not previously considered for such use, absent corridor studies or a focused area plan as recommended in the POCD. Sharon also, there's some things that she agrees with. Two, there were no she felt number 2 was appropriate. That restriction was appropriate. Number 3, the commissions may wish to consider limiting the density. Again, there's no density restriction in this. All of our other residential zones, there's a density restriction. There isn't in this case. No big issues with 4, 5, 6, and 7. 8, staff strongly recommends that the language be amended to require a mix of uses in the converted structure. And the off-street parking is self-explanatory. The consistency, I'm on page 7, the consistency with the POCD. The consideration for mixed-use districts outside the CBD is noted in the 2023 POCD. However, it is clear in the POCD and specifically referenced that consideration should be made after careful analysis of existing districts. While the proposed amendment could provide for a mixed-use building, it does not require the building to contain a mix of uses, nor was there any impact analysis conducted within the corridor except to indicate that the amendment, by virtue of the acreage restriction, is limited. More importantly, the amendment as proposed does not transform the CA 80 zone into a mixed-use district that allows for residential dwelling units in the building with other uses. It creates a new use that allows it on only 2 sites. It's a mixed-use district that allows dwelling units to be developed in structures with other allowed uses if is desired, It should be implemented only after careful assessment of appropriate locations and potential citywide impacts. This type of analysis has not been presented under this petition. The CA 80 zone is designated as corridor commercial on the future land use map. Application of this new hotel conversion use in the CA 80 will result in the introduction of dwelling units in the corridor and an action inconsistent with the recent FLUM designation. The petition does, however, provide another opportunity for the adapted reuse of buildings. In this regard, the petition is consistent with the POCD and the Affordable Housing Plan that recommends exploring such opportunities. The question remains, does the CA 80 zone in only 2 locations present the right opportunity? Comments regarding affordability in relation to the Affordable Housing Plan were discussed earlier. But to reiterate, staff cautions that, in its opinion, the issue of affordability cannot, as claimed by the petitioner, be solved by unit size. Alternatively, the issue of affordability can be addressed by requiring that units remain affordable by recording of deed restrictions. This is the case for similar affordable units allowed in other zones. So the commissions may find there is some merit to consideration of a new use. This is in conclusion. There is merit to consideration of a new use that introduces residential dwellings into the CA 80. If that is the case, the description of the use and the restrictions should be drafted in concise terms, fully considering the comments above. Careful consideration should be given as to whether allowing this hotel conversion at only 2 properties on the western end of the zone is appropriate. And if so, acknowledge the probable likelihood that requests could be made to lower or delete the acreage requirement and/or apply the use to other commercial zones. If this occurs, housing could be developed in areas of the city that were not, in the new POCD, necessarily considered for broad residential use, particularly without supporting corridor studies. The question before the commissions is whether this petition, as drafted and proposed, provides the best way to do that. Staff also reminds the commissions that specifics of a project that could be developed under the zoning regulation does not bind a future applicant of a concept. Staff notes that there is a need for affordable and accessible housing. We're just not convinced this amendment would provide either. So again, as I said previously, if the commissions are inclined to consider approving the petition, staff asks that you give careful consideration of the proposed language of each section, and then again, state your reasons and consistency with the POCD. Any questions?
Where do we start with that?
Yeah, there's no truncating a lot of that, so I apologize for the lengthiness.
A good presentation, Jen. Anyone want to start? Any thoughts? Well, I'll go first again if you want me to. I just I don't know. I can't. First of all, let me say that as an aside, it's been sort of an interesting evolution of people on the planning commission. You know, Helen and myself and Bob Chiocchio, and for that matter, Jennifer Eminger, all lived over on the eastern side of Danbury, the Brookfield side of Danbury. I recently moved. I now live on the west side. So for the first time in my 61 years, I'm on the west side. And I moved to Rivington, for those of you who don't know. And now I'm on Mill Plain Road all the time. So let's just say I'm getting a whole new education for traffic concerns on the west side of Danbury. But the concerns I have for this one are right off of Sharon's report. I mean, I'm concerned about no open space. I'm concerned about the fact that these sites aren't necessarily pedestrian or transit friendly. I don't like the fact that there's not a mix of uses. That sort of brings it outside of the POCD. no density restrictions. Not sure it addresses the issue of affordability in Danbury. And the other thing, I'll just, again, among other, I won't go through the whole thing, but I mean, collateral or unintended consequences. You know, there's a lot of hotels in Danbury. I don't know how they're doing financially, but the last thing we want to see is several hotels coming in to convert to apartment buildings. You know, even over on the west side, the Hilton Garden Inn, I know falls under the purview of this application. But there's other hotels on Mill Plain Road. There's the one across from Caroluzzi's. I can't recall the name of it. Might be a Holiday Inn Express. There's the Marin over on the other side of town. There's a Holiday Inn, a Marriott Courtyard, a Hampton Inn, a Days Inn, I think. You know, we could, as pointed out in the report, be opening the floodgates for other conversions. I'm not sure that's something that we would want. So those are my thoughts, and I will shut up and leave it to the others.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'm a bit torn on it because, you know, going through the process of the affordable housing plan that we drafted and the POCD, you know, we're looking for more creative, more adaptive ways of using A, older buildings, or B, generally just generating more housing opportunities, especially affordable. So I'd like to see, you know, something creative like this. I'd like to see something work, but for the reasons, you know, you just went through and that are outlined in the report, I do have the same concerns. I'm not sure it's, you know, quite the right answer. You know, I'd like to see that there is a solution that would work, especially for the hackerspace. I know we've been looking for a site for years. I'd love to see them have a site that has enough space for them to be who they want to be and provide opportunities for jobs and new businesses in our city. You know, obviously not an issue that sites, you know, we're not talking about a site-specific project like that quite yet in this process, but, you know, just a little frustrated because I'd love to see a home for them. I'd love to see more housing opportunities, but it seems like it's almost, you know, trying to squeeze it in a little too forced in this case. It's not quite right.
Thank you, Mr. Sylvain. Anybody else? Any comments?
Let's see.
Ellen?
Okay, well, I'll say from my viewpoint, this is a good start in terms of addressing the needs, you know, that we've described in the POCD for housing, and also it also begins to address the conversion opportunities from what we have to what we want and need. I do think it needs more work. I mean, based on the complete staff report and the very good detail it provides to request clarifications, better fit to the zoning wording, you know, that should be simpler and fit better with what we have now to make those changes. You know, better alignment with the POCD based on good reasoning, and certainly the staff report is suggesting analysis on the success of projects after this amendment goes through. And I don't think we have that. Like I say, it's a good start, but I think there's a lot of work we can do to make it a whole lot better before it goes through. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Ellen. Anything, Kev?
No, it's kind of we got to figure out something to do with that piece of property.
Yeah,
hard
I agree.
thing to try to do. It'd be nice if maybe Attorney Beecher at some point, if Michael, when this is all done and we determine what we're doing, it'd be nice if they were to come out and tell us kind of what they think they could do with the property.
Yeah, and I just again wanted to thank you, Kevin. You know, the sort of lack of sidewalks, it's up in the Rivington area, it's kind of strange over there. You have what? Rivington's got 800, 900 units of residential condos, and virtually no mixed use, no commercial support, nothing. And there's no sidewalks that get you to anything commercial. None. I mean, if I'm at my unit and I want to, you know, again, there's 900 units up there. If I want to buy a bottle of Coca-Cola, I have to drive down to that mobile station. It's not real, as Jennifer said, it's not real transit friendly. It's not sidewalk friendly. It's just you want to see these micro units in an area where there's transit and where there's mixed use, not in an isolated spot, you know, way out at the end of Mill Plain Road with essentially nowhere to go. So that's me. That's my 2 cents. And with that said, unless there's any other comments, I'll entertain a motion. Again, a motion for either a positive or a negative referral.
Mr. Chairman, I just ask again that whatever the motion is, that you state your reasons in consistency with the POCD.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone want to take a shot at that? Again, remember, it's just a positive or negative referral, and this is the zoning commission's ultimate call.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a recommendation for a negative referral based on a lot of detail that was provided in the staff report, much of which addresses how it could be better aligned with the POCD. But I also want to say it's a good start, and, you know, with certain clarification and better content on, you know, on that analyzes the impact of the change. I would certainly encourage more work on it.
Motion's been made for a negative referral for the reasons Helen pointed out. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. We'll just so we do, rather than take a roll call vote, what I'll do is I'll take a voice vote, as we sometimes do when we have a negative referral. I won't get into Robert's Rules of Order. Okay, so a yes vote is a vote for a negative referral. A no vote is not for a vote of a negative referral. I know it's a little weird, but that's the way it is. So again, a yes vote is for a negative referral. Helen?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So this matter gets a negative referral. Okay, one more, Jen, and this next one looks a little easier for you. So why don't you go right ahead?
Yes, thank you. At this point, I'm losing my voice, so please bear with me. All right, do you want to read this one
Oh, yes, I forgot
on
it.
the agenda?
You're losing your voice. I'm losing it totally.
I know.
8.3a referral. Petition of the City of Danbury by Sharon B. Calitro, Planning Director, to amend sections 5B2A and B of the zoning regulations, change dependency treatment center from permitted use to special exception use. Zoning Commission public hearing scheduled for June 27th, 2023. Jen, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The department has submitted a petition to amend section 5B2A in the CA80 zone to delete use number 14, dependency treatment center, as a permitted use, and add the same use to section 5B2B, special exception use, as use number 11 in that line of uses. So again, it's going from a permitted use to deleting as a permitted use and adding it as a special exception use in the CA80. Sharon's report provides the definition as per section 2B. I will not reiterate. This use will remain unchanged. The definition remains unchanged. The use was added to the zoning regulations as a permitted use in 2000 at the request of MCCA. The MCCA facility on Old Richbury Road is the only dependency treatment center use in the city, and no other zones allow this use. The proposed amendment to delete this as a permitted use and add it as a special exception use would help to limit the potential for several similar treatment center uses to locate in the CA80 zone. Each application for said use would be vetted through the special exception process and require, as you know, a public hearing. The findings, and again, part of that process, you would have to, the findings of 10C4 would be required, and it allows the commission conditions and modifications to address any concerns that may arise. If approved, the MCCA use, which is located on Old Richbury Road, would be allowed to continue and would be considered non-conforming. They would not be required to obtain grants of special exception to continue to operate. However, if they wish to expand, they would then need to go through the special exception process. But to just exist as they exist today, they would not need to do anything. It's just when they make a change and they meet the thresholds, they would be required to come back. They would be required to apply for a special exception site plan application. It should be noted that the option of classifying the use as a special exception use rather than a permitted use was discussed as an alternate by the Zoning Commission in 2000. And interestingly enough, the Planning Commission issued a negative because they felt it should be a special exception. So, hold on, I'm sorry. Notes. So with respect to the POCD, the role of the POCD is to guide future actions of the city and provide guidance on how to make public decisions. One of its functions is to balance competing public and private interest and demands on land by recommending development patterns that are orderly and rational and provide the greatest benefits for individuals and the community as a whole. There can be no doubt that amending the zoning regulations to regulate land uses and their location within the city as deemed necessary by the commission is consistent with that role and function. The needs of those served by this use will be maintained, albeit the process for a determination of the placement of the facility will change under the petition. Again, we feel this is appropriate. In conclusion, the amendment does not delete the use from the zoning regulations. It just moves from one use category to another. The more discretionary review process is necessary to determine if the special exception use, a use deemed appropriate for the district, is indeed appropriate for that specific site within the CA80 zone, given the specific site conditions. As such, staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Any questions?
Anyone have any thoughts? I'll go first again. I don't know. Once I hear that silence, but I think it's a good idea. I like the fact that it's being moved to a special exception use because we get the added protection of a public hearing. So again, it's sort of an extra layer of protection. If there's any dissension or concerns about a dependency treatment center, people will have an opportunity to come to a public hearing and express their views, as opposed to if it's a permitted use, that doesn't happen. So that's how I feel. Anyone else? You're welcome to comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree. Go ahead, Helen.
I was just going to say, I agree with your comments, and yes, that's it.
Great.
And I would agree as well. I don't think we're losing anything by doing this, but we're gaining additional protections and avoiding maybe an unintended proliferation of the use we can guard against.
Thank you, commission members, for your comments. Unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion for a positive referral if you're so inclined.
So moved.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you make sure you
Sure.
include the reasons?
We forgot.
Yes,
Sorry.
as outlined in the report, this is consistent with the POCD as it gives the commission the ability to basically adjust how we view the use in a certain zone as times change, as our needs change. And I think this is appropriate in that sense.
Thank you.
Okay, does that work, Jen? We have a motion and a second for the reasons stated. Is there any other discussion, commission members? Hearing none, all in favor of a positive referral, please say aye.
Aye. All right.
Opposed? This matter gets a positive referral. Let's see what else we have. I don't think we have anything else. A couple of things to look under new business for reference only. Anything else, commission members, this evening? Anything? Okay, last motion of the night to adjourn. Anyone?
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Good work.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice job, Jen.
Take care.
Yes.